Policemen of Reddit. What crimes did you see the aftermath of that were so cool that you didn't want to arrest the criminal? My friend is a police officer in Berlin. He and his colleague were sent to an incident of domestic violence. A guy was beating up his wife and the neighbors called the police. When they arrived at the scene, they found the son of the wife beating up his stepfather, who was trying to fight back but just catched one hit after the other. The son made sure not to hit the stepfather's face, and when asked later, he said, "I didn't want him to drop unconscious. I wanted this to last. Also, that would have been unfair, as he never hit my mother where other people could see her bruises too." Very sad situation, very badass kid. Story 2. A friend of mine used to be a hash dealer. For some reason, he spent his money on reptile habitats, giant glass enclosures connected by tunnels, plant life everywhere, dozens of different reptiles living in a lush green world. When he got busted, cops were calling other cops to come take a look. Some even went to get cameras, this was the 90s, because they were so blown away by what they were seeing. Of course, they'd still arrested him, but in the cops' eyes, he had become cool reptile guy, instead of just another drug dealer they'd arrested. Story 3. I had a case in my first year as an officer where a drunk man launched his car off a boat ramp. We approximated that he was going about 50 miles per hour and the car landed in 20 feet of water. And now, the cool part. He swam out, ran 8 miles to his uncle's house, and stole his tow truck. He then drove the tow truck back, swam down and hooked the tow cable to the axle of the car and proceeded to pull the tow truck into the water as well. We were called on scene and we could only see the headlights and the tip of the hood above water. He was passed out asleep on the dock next to it. Story 4. Not a policeman, but a cool dude police guy stopped me for speeding one Christmas day many years ago. I was late for my night shift at work, so I was in a hurry. When he stopped me, I was like, crap. I'm a big black guy in a BMW with tinted windows. Surely it looks dodgy as hell. I live in the UK. After apologizing, explaining, and showing him my details, he knew I was legit, and not just trying to pull a fast one. So he said, "Follow me," and put on his police car light and helped me speed through traffic to be at work on time for the night shift. To this day, I see him around and buy him a beer in the local pub whenever I can. Story 5. This one always gets me. In my city, a homeless man was breaking into homes by lockpicking. Nothing unusual with that. However, what he did was brilliant. He would wait until he knew the times people wouldn't be home and would clean their homes for them. He averaged a week or so per home going unnoticed. The first few homes he was never caught, but signs of a home invasion were reported to us. On the house he did get caught in, he used the defense that he was cleaning a home that he was hired to clean and mistakenly got the wrong house. The door was left open. Armed with nothing but a cell phone, he made fake email correspondence to back his claims up from a client with a similar address. He was able to, overall, unproven but speculated, stay for upwards of a month in homes. In court, his defense was actually successful, in my opinion, because the other cases he couldn't be linked to and was only prosecuted for the one. Then, with his defense, his lawyer only got him 14 days in jail. Guy never took anything outside of food. He would clean their house, eat, shower, and nap, and then leave. Is this just not like a live-in maid with extra steps? The extra steps being the illegal part, unfortunately. But really, it is kind of just a unrequested live-in maid. Story 6. I'm not a cop, but I have a cool story about an ex-boyfriend and his crazy cop/criminal camaraderie. I've talked about him many times before on here, but most of those posts are now years old and buried under giant slabs of blather. He is brilliant, but super screwed up. When he was in his early 20s, he got into drugs, and there she blew. He ended up homeless, dumpster diving for food/sellable items/whatever. One day he found a set of lockpicks in a little leather case. He immediately hit up the library and through books and the library's free computers and internet, set about teaching himself to pick locks. The thing about the drug he was on is it makes you incredibly single-minded. But this dude was also the type where if he became interested in something, he dove deep into full-on obsession. He started spending all of his time with locks. Then he started making keys. I don't know how many of you have experienced hanging around in drug dens, but he was the guy in the corner, bent over a Dremel for 2 days straight. Soon, no lock could keep him out. He still had his morals somewhat intact at this point, so armed with his new skill, he decided to go after parking meters. He figured because paid parking was instituted in World War II to pay for the war effort and then never taken offline as promised by various governments, he was stealing from the man. He soon branched out to vending machines and coin-operated laundry machines too, though that was later. He would somehow steal a parking meter either by bashing it over with a crappy car and then tossing it into the trunk and speeding off, or painstakingly hacksawing the metal pole. Some meters were just locked to the pole, so he would pick that lock and make off with the head. He would then abscond with his prize to a secluded location, usually a flophouse, and set about copying the keyway. Because the meters in our town at the time only had 3 or 4 master keys, he soon had homemade keys to every meter in the city. It was then as simple as rolling up to each meter on a street, opening it, pulling out the cup of change, dumping it into a heavy-duty duffel bag, putting it all back the way he found it, and moving on to the next. He was pulling in $3 to $4 grand every time he went out. He targeted private paid parking lots too, because to him, they were the worst of the worst. Those were the mother lode, because they had larger coins and bills in them. He soon became very popular. He would pay people to spot, block sightlines, and drive him around. Word got out. He was the man, because when you have several $1,000s every night, you're the life of the party. With this positive attention came the negative too, however. One story that comes to mind. There was this up-and-coming drug lord called the Fat Persian. Nationality changed for privacy reasons, from whom my ex scored from often. The Fat Persian was delighted by the way my ex-boyfriend was Robin Hooding around, sticking it to the man and pulling in fat wads of cash. Dollar signs flashed in his eyes, or cent signs. So the Fat Persian came up with a plan. This particular night finds ex-boyfriend at a flophouse, holding court in the corner with his trusty Dremel. Someone hands him a phone. On the other end is the urgent, Soto voice of a girl he knows. A girl who hung out at the Fat Persian's place a lot. On the other end, he hears, "Get the hell out of there right now! They're on their way for you! You have maybe 5 minutes, go!" Before ex-boyfriend could ask any questions, she had already hung up. He handed back the phone, stuffed his stuff into his backpack, quietly deked out the back door, and ran through backyards to get as far away as fast as possible. 4.8 minutes later, the door is kicked in and men with balaclavas and various weapons storm the place. It was a multi-level house stuffed with people in various stages of tweak and nod, so it took a while to get everyone on the floor in one room, just to realize ex-boyfriend was nowhere to be found.
Where the hell is he?
We don't know, he was just here a minute ago, check! Their plan foiled, ex-boyfriend's would-be kidnappers/assailants broke some stuff, hit a few terrified bystanders, and left. The plan was to abscond with the brain, take him to some dank basement, handcuff him to a radiator or what have you, shoot him up with speed 24/7, and force him to make keys until he could no longer function. Then, who knows, dispose of him in some grisly fashion, most likely. Later, when confronted, over the phone if I recall correctly, the Fat Persian was like, "Come on, buddy, you can't blame a guy for trying, can ya?" Stuff was getting real. The cops, the city, and the private parking companies were also doing the math and realizing someone was ferreting their dosh receptacles and getting away clean. After numerous arrests, near misses, and run-ins, the Baconators knew who their guy was. It was just a matter of catching him red-handed. The owner of one of the main monopolist private parking companies began staking out his own properties. He parked in his lots overnight every night for a month, waiting and watching. He always managed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He'd be in one lot whilst ex-boyfriend was in another across town monkeying with his stuff. Finally, parking dude caught and apprehended ex-boyfriend with his hand in the change jar and called the cops. Then he probably had the best sleep of his life, or at least since ex-boyfriend began his reign of terror. Parking dude couldn't deny the ingenuity and straight-up wiliness, so he had to hand it to my ex-boyfriend. Same with the cops, actually. One cop in particular, the guy ex-boyfriend had the most dealings with, was also gleefully flabbergasted by the balls on this kid. In the interrogation room, you'd have sworn the two were old buddies laughing over beers, reminiscing about the old days.
"So, that night when we were chasing you and you disappeared, where the hell did you go?"
"We were totally stymied, it's like you teleported away." "You know that bush beside the house on Street and Avenue? I hid in there until you guys left."
"No kidding. We must have walked past that damn bush 20 times.
Yeah, I was duking my Batman underoos for sure. Basically, they ended up becoming friends, especially after ex-boyfriend got out the last longish stretch of jail during that time and decided to straighten up. When ex-boyfriend got out, parking dude tracked him down and hired him as a security consultant. When that gig ended, he hired him on as a meter reader. That job was too hard for him to do from a moral perspective, though, and suddenly he was working for the man. The cognitive dissonance was just too much. He stayed clean for 8 years, and regularly met up with the cop for beers or coffee. They always had a ball reminiscing about the good old, bad old days. This was around the time that he and I reconnected. We were street urchins together in our early teens. Or my early teens and his late ones. He was 4 years older than me. We got together, I cleaned up from my drug of choice, and we had a few happy years before stuff started going sideways. He's not doing well at all these days. But I've managed to stay clean for 5 years as of yesterday. That's another story, though. And also somewhere far back in my post history. Let's just say that things got spectacularly terrible for both of us. As far as a string of thefts go, stealing from parking meters, I can live with that one morally, I think. I wouldn't do it still, but I don't hate it as I would some other things. It's not like stealing from small businesses, right? And I am absolutely impressed by the balls on the ex-boyfriend here. Raking in that much money, and in an intelligent-ish kind of way, too. It's a shame he couldn't stay clean, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Addiction is absolutely brutal. It can ruin the best minds. Also, there was a long bit in the middle, or more towards the end, that I just cut out and moved on with because this story is super long. So, moving on. Story 7. Cops come due to a domestic disturbance. Husband in altercation with man outside of home. Wife is present. Cops talk to husband who is severely beaten. Cops talk to wife. Cops talk to man who turns out to be their friend. The allegation is husband may have assaulted wife and friend beat husband. Husband runs inside and tells cops to stay out. Works. Cops interviewing friend smirk and laugh when interviewing friend at how severely the husband was beaten. No one arrested. Story 8. I wouldn't say that this is cool, but I arrested someone for battering his missus. Just before I tell him the magic words, he says, "I saw her with 3 other guys, man. What would you do?" I couldn't think of anything cool to say, but the way the guy looked at me, I felt so bad for the situation they were both in. It seems she has/had issues with the drugs and alcohol, and he walked in on her in a group setting. I acknowledge that super sucks. I don't know any other way to say it. Walking in on that must be the most heartbreaking, earth-shattering thing ever. However, beating her? I don't know, man. I can't get behind that in, any circumstances. Story 9. Not the cop, I'm the guy he let go. Was flying down a notoriously steep hill on neighborhood streets on my bicycle. Had the wind at my back and a huge smile on my face as I blew through a stop sign near the bottom. Cop goes flying by, all lit up, sirens blaring. Runs up the road a ways full blast, clear streets. Flips everything off and pulled over to wait for me. Waved me over when I got up to him.
Did you just blow through a stop sign up there?
Yeah, sorry, man.
Crap, I was looking for a Porsche or something. Do you know how fast you were going?
I know how much fun I was having. I tried a goofy smile.
64 miles is nearly triple the speed limit. That's so reckless.
Starts to lecture me on fines, penalties, insurance.
Hell, a judge might even impose jail time.
Thinks for a minute and then continues.
You could have unalived someone.
Pauses a bit. Grins almost imperceptibly.
My record on that hill is 57.
Went from almost crapping myself to relief in a single heartbeat. I got a pretty good run out at the top, and I think the wind is at my back today.
Next time, stop at the intersection.
Gets in the car and drives away. I always do. Now. I'm sorry. 64 miles per hour on a bicycle? Is that real? I would be absolutely horrified. Admittedly, I haven't ridden a bike in a while, so I guess I don't have a huge frame of reference. I don't go 64 in my car often, though. That is some impressive speed. Story 10. Not a cop, but my dad was. He pulled over the local ice cream truck in my town because the driver failed to stop at the stop sign. While reviewing his papers, he realizes the guy's license is expired and his permits to operate the ice cream truck haven't been renewed yet that summer. Instead of writing him ticket after ticket and essentially ruining the man's yearly income, he gave him 2 weeks to sort it out. Ice Cream Man got all his stuff in order and at the end of the summer dropped off 4 massive boxes of ice cream to our house as a thank you. Never ate so many screwballs in my life. Rare cop W, to be honest. Seriously, this is a super awesome thing to do. Just be like, hey look, you have time to sort this out. I know it can be sorted out, so just do it. And he did. He kept his business going, he got the money for that summer, and he repaid the cop a bit. This is a feel-good story. Big fan of this one. Story 11. Saw this in an emergency department. Not sure of the outcome, but still was awesome to see. An 18-year-old or so came into the hospital after threatening self-harm. She got frustrated that she hadn't been seen in an hour or two, so picked a fight with the cops that brought her in, and she clobbered the male officer in the jaw. So the female cop tackled her to the floor and put handcuffs on her. The kadoosh of her hitting the floor will never leave my mind. After that, I learned to never underestimate female cops. It was literally a John Cena takedown. Opie, I don't think you read the prompt, but cool story. Story 12. When I was 14, I smoked because I was so cool, you know? Figured my mom didn't know because teenagers are so sneaky. My mom was dating a cop, and on date night she left and jokingly said, "No smoking in the house." Well, a few hours later, I went to the apartment quad for a smoke, and my mom and police boyfriend came home early. She yells, "Are you smoking?" And me, being a little jerk, was like, "Yeah, you said don't do it in the house." Her boyfriend was like, technically, he has your parental permission to smoke as long as it wasn't inside. So I didn't even need to do anything about it. We did eventually have a talk about the dangers of smoking and blah blah, which totally didn't take because I was eventually detained by campus police at 16 for smoking on campus during school hours. Got 30 hours of community service. Story 13. This happened a long time ago. I was a rookie in the early 80s. I was dispatched on a disturbance call, and when I arrived, there was a guy on the ground and a woman was pummeling him with a baseball bat. I ran up, grabbed her, took the bat, and handcuffed her. I called an ambulance for the guy, and the woman was crying and saying, "You don't understand. He assaulted me last year." I was a little incredulous, but checked it out, and sure enough, he had an outstanding warrant for assault. I had dispatch pull up the report, and you guessed it, she was the victim. The EMTs checked him out, and he was very bruised, but not really injured. I took the cuffs off of her and slapped them on him and told her, "Thank you for the assist on the arrest." He went straight to jail, did not pass go, nor collect $200. Ooh, an assaulter going to jail? An assaulter getting beat up? I'll take that. I'll take that any day. Story 14. I'm not a cop, but I've been let go by the cops a number of times when I was a wild youth. First, there were many times I just walked calmly past the cops busting a house party. They were too busy having fun chasing the kids running or hiding. Another time, I was out joyriding with my friend soon after the 4th of July. We were in a rural area and had some fireworks in the car. We hadn't seen a car for miles, so I had the brilliant idea of Roman candle jousting. I held the candle outside and shot out above and in front of the car, so we would drive through the sparks. It was great watching all the colorful bursts shower over the windshield. We did 2 candles and decided we would do 1 more and be done. The last candle, we passed a dark car on the side of the road for the last round of sparks. Quickly, we realized the car was following us fast, so my friend put the pedal down to get away. I think we got up to 70 before the cops' lights came on and we realized we were doomed. We pulled over immediately, of course. In the end, the cops confiscated our fireworks and told us we would be receiving civil fines in the mail. Those fines never came, though. Story 15. Sorry for the bad English, not a native speaker. I wasn't the cop in this situation. I just left a girlfriend of mine in her hometown about 12 a.m. I was going to visit another girlfriend of mine who just came back from holidays. I took the car and grabbed some beer to drink later. Just before the entrance of her house, a couple of policemen made me stop for a check. At that time, I was tired, I had drank a bit, and I didn't remember if I had all the documents with me. The first policeman, young guy with a serious face, came to me and started to ask questions about the beer in my car. The second man, an old cop with a kind face, was checking on my documents. The young cop asks, "Where do you come from?" Then he asks where I was going, and I tell him I was going to another friend's house to spend some good time. At that point, the old man tells the young cop, "Let him go. He's not drunk, but most probably tired, and he'll be even more tired with the other friend." They let me go for a machistic misunderstanding, and the old man also told me I was a good and lucky guy. I had a little trouble following this one, but if OP is getting as busy as I think he is, good for him. Not so good for him, drinking and then driving afterwards. I'm going to assume he was under the legal limit, just for my own sanity, because drinking and driving is stupid, dangerous, don't do it. Story 16. Not me, but my uncle is a police officer. His main job was to find drugs, and one time they pulled over this guy who was speeding. He had a huge black suitcase in his back seat, saran wrapped shut. My uncle thought this was going to be one of the biggest drug busts of his career. He and the other officers took the suitcase out of the car, opened it up, and no drugs. The black suitcase was full of fake dongs. They spilled out everywhere, all different colors and shapes. The officers were laughing so hard that they didn't even want to give the guy a speeding ticket. Poor guy was so embarrassed. Where was the man going in such a hurry with a suitcase full of fake dongs? Like, clearly man had places to be. I can only assume with plans for the fake dongs, because why else would you have them in your car? Anyway, that is all the time we have for stories today. I hope you enjoyed what you heard or watched, and I also hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. I'll see you in the next one.